This episode of The Breakfast Show is brought to you by Mozo Shoes. Form and function combine to make a great-looking, stylish, and slip-resistant shoe. For more information on Mozo Shoes, visit mozoshoes.com. And Nueske's Applewood Smoked Meats. Since 1933, Nueske's has been creating the world's finest quality and flavorful smoked meats. For order, recipe, and more information, visit nueskemeats.com. Welcome to Hollywood, California. As the historic home for the motion picture industry, Hollywood is one of the most famous neighborhoods in Los Angeles. And while most of the major studios have moved out, Hollywood still remains the spiritual embodiment of everything that is big time on the big screen. This is the Oaks Gourmet Market. Oaks Gourmet is an eclectic bodega that features a coffee bar and the best freaking breakfast burrito you'll ever eat. Today I'm having my burrito with Curtis Stone. Curtis is a renowned chef, best-selling author, television personality, and Aussie transplant. I'm Ben Vaughn, and this is The Breakfast Show. Good, man. How are you?
Good. Nice
Good
to see you.
you.
Grab a seat.
Yeah.
This is my morning office.
What are you doing in LA?
I live here.
I know you do now,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, how did that happen?
It's a funny story, actually.
I'd love to hear it.
Moved to LA by total accident. It was a big mistake. Well, it wasn't a big mistake. It was the best thing I ever did, but it wasn't intended. I started putting a birthday party together when I was turning 30, and half my mates were from the UK, where I lived, and half of them were Aussies, where I was from. So I thought Las Vegas is right in the middle, so we'll have a big 30th birthday party in Las Vegas. So I booked a hotel and was planning a few bits and pieces. And I got called to do this show, which I thought was a ridiculous idea, called Take Home Chef.
Yeah.
And they explained the concept, you go to a grocery store, you ask a girl when you can go back to her house and cook her dinner, and I was like, that's a stupid idea for a show, but you know what? I can get them to shoot the pilot in LA, which means they'll pay for my flight.
Nice.
And I can go tell them I'm only available around November, my birthday, and I'll get a free flight out of it. So I did. I went over, I shot this pilot, it took 2 days, and then I went to Vegas and had this great party. Came home, I'd sort of forgotten about the pilot because we had so much fun in Vegas. And I got a phone call saying, yeah, they've picked up the show. They've picked up 60 episodes. And I was like, what?
60 episodes?
Yeah. It's because I was so cheap.
Oh.
They could afford to make a lot of them very inexpensively.
Why this place? Why'd you suggest? What's
Because it's at the bottom of my hill.
Because it's at the bottom of my hill.
It happens to have the best bacon and egg burrito you've ever seen in your life.
Just straight up bacon and egg?
Dude, they cook this bacon, it's smoked bacon, and they cook it so crispy that it just crumbles in the burrito. And they leave the eggs nice and runny, and it's literally the perfect. I've tried to make the exact same thing, and it's very simple, but they do it better than me, which I'm very jealous of, but very happy about.
That's a rarity. The place at the bottom of your hill can cook eggs better than you.
Right? Great.
Major differences in the two cultures.
There's a huge difference between Australia and America,
Yes.
but not such a difference between Australia and the UK.
Okay.
Which is interesting, because I didn't expect it, to be honest. I sort of thought, we watch American television in Australia and we seem like we're really quite similar, but actually there's some really significant differences.
Give me one or two.
Look, the Aussies are so laid back.
Yeah?
We're always on vacation.
Yeah?
Whenever you talk to an Aussie, they're
On
like, yeah, I went
holiday.
for 4 weeks on holiday. You're like, 4 weeks? Now you get used to the
How can you
American way of
afford
life.
that?
We don't drive such flashy cars.
Why don't we go order?
Let's do it.
All right. Oh wow, look at these things.
Right?
There's something like creamy and crusty and
A little cheese in there.
savory and
Little jalapeno.
It's still runny.
It's perfectly runny every time,
Yeah.
but not too runny that it ends up down your arm.
Yeah.
And when I've made it at home to try and steal their creation, my bacon, every time you take a bite, you end up with a big piece of bacon. I don't know what they do with the bacon. Maybe they cut it.
Maybe they cut it. So I'm envisioning you in the basement at Marco Pierre White's. After I read White Heat, I think it was called, his book. Me coming up, he was such a iconic chef.
Right.
Even here in the States. I mean, everybody was like, just in love with the Marco Pierre White. Nobody had ever even eaten in his restaurants that talked so highly about him. But what was that like?
I read the same book, and it's what made me cook. I can still remember reading that book and just as a young kid being transformed into this groupie of like wanting to be in that kitchen, wanting to feel the craziness of it. I played Aussie rules football as a kid, and there was something really similar about working for Marco and playing football where you get beaten up every day.
Really?
I mean, he was just a super intense, super passionate, hardest worker you've ever met in your life. And to be around that was just this incredible feeling. He was also ruthless in terms of, you either did it his way and you did it right, or you did it totally wrong and you could get thrown out of the kitchen at any point. Which sounds frightening, but it's actually quite exciting
when you want something bad enough.
Right. It's like they don't let you litter in Singapore.
Right.
And guess what? If you go to jail and litter, no one litters. You ran this super disciplined kitchen.
If you weren't a chef, what would you be?
I think I'd be a gardener.
Like pansies and rosemary, or like corn and
Is that a metaphor?
potatoes? No, it's not a metaphor.
I think I'd look after pansies and rosemaries. Rosemary.
Really?
I don't know if I'd want to be
Like perennials and
like
those type
dealing
of
with
things?
huge fields of stuff,
Sure.
like smaller scale.
Okay.
I have a veggie garden at home, and I have found that I really love it. There's
Yeah.
something really sweet about starting with nothing and turning it into something really good and then eating it.
That I don't eat my grass at home, but I have a similar passion about mowing my lawn.
Really?
It's strange because it's almost like it's an easy accomplishment. It doesn't take a lot of work, but I like to mow it to make it look like a baseball field. You know the lines on the baseball field. So I that's a kind of a thing of mine. The only
There's
one.
a classification for that.
Yeah. OCD. Yeah.
So what would you do if you didn't cook?
I think I would do something similar to yours. I'm not going to take your gardening, but I would love to. I like growing, and I also like getting in and getting dirty. So I think some sort of like agriculture would definitely be something I'd be interested in. I also love writing because I can express myself in writing like I could making a beautiful plate of food.
Right.
Or share an experience through writing that lasts for time. I mean, it's forever. So I guess those are the two things. Maybe writing a book on gardening, how to grow pansies. What about every day? The whole family's in the car. You're going for a meal. You've got 4 different palates. You, your wife, and the 2 boys who are different ages.
The boys eat whatever we eat.
They
We're
do?
lucky, yeah.
Oh wow, you're lucky.
Like we tone down the spice for them when we go for Mexican, but that's about the only compensation the poor
That's
kids
awesome.
get. But they love it. You know, I never forget having a conversation with Kat Cora just before my first kid was born, and I was like, "So how do you make baby food? You know, like what do you do?" And she's like, "You take whatever you're eating, and stick it in a blender, and you give it to them, and that's it. You never cook differently for them." And I've never forgotten what she said, and it works. It's like a brilliant way of doing it.
That's smart.
Yeah, and like they get introduced to all sorts of different seafood and meats and vegetables. It's cool.
So I think we should let 5-year-olds make all of our foods decisions all of the time for all of us.
I don't think it should stop at food. I think we should just let them make all the decisions. What do you want to do today, mate? Play hide and seek? Okay, that's what's going to happen.
I read that quote
Yeah,
and I understood exactly what you meant.
right.
Exactly. Well, I have children.
Yeah,
And when I say this is what's for dinner, and if you don't eat it, you're going to bed hungry, they're going to eat that or they're going to eat tomorrow night.
right. You know what? With kids, and this is a hot topic right now, right? Like talking about whether you enforce what your kids eat, you restrict them from eating certain things, or you let them do whatever they want.
Right.
And I think that we've become this culture of people, like a generation of people that say, well, if you don't want that, honey, can I make you something else? And we're
Yes.
so worried about our kids not eating. And I just think that it's okay to say to your kids, that's what's for dinner.
Right.
And if you don't want to eat it, you don't have to, mate. But I'm not going to cook you something else. And if you want to eat in 2 hours' time, I'll bring it back out for you. But I'm not going to do you something different. You know, you can't dictate to me what it is that you're going to eat.
Right.
Because your kids just don't have the maturity yet, depending on how old they are, of course, to know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, if there was no ramifications, we'd eat ice cream for dinner every night too. But
Every night.
You can't do it.
You can't do that. So if I were to tell you that Americans think that Outback restaurant represents Australian food, how does that make you feel?
Well, the truth is I've never eaten at Outback Steakhouse. Look, the food in Australia, in some parts of Australia, you're closer to Asia
Yeah.
than you are the other coast of the country, right? So it's as remote as we are, we're still pretty like centralized in the middle of Southeast Asia. So there's a lot of Asian ingredients, a lot of Asian cooks and chefs in the country.
Are there bloomin' onions?
There's no bloomin' onions. I've never come across a bloomin' onion. I've got some bloomin' onions in my garden that literally are blooming, but
This is the most ridiculous question I think I've ever asked. Does Outback Steakhouse represent your entire country well in a culinary presence? So, with your best case scenario breakfast, who are you with? What are you eating? And for all the ladies out there, what are you wearing?
my best case scenario breakfast is with my boys and my wife.
Yeah?
I'm eating fried chicken and waffles. Maybe one of these breakfast burritos on the side.
Yeah. That's a side item.
That's a side item. Because if this is the best breakfast,
Sure.
you know, like, forget about the
This
fruit
is the
and
Green
spoil.
Mile breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my hall pass breakfast. And I'm probably still in my pajamas.
Nice. What about a normal everyday breakfast? What's your everyday breakfast?
I'm with my kids and my wife. I'm not eating fried chicken and waffles, but we have fruit every morning. We make juice each day, scrambled eggs, and I'm probably still in my pajamas.
Yeah? Shuffling around in your pajamas
Yeah.
making juice? What time do you head to the restaurant?
My pajamas double as my underpants, by the way.
Is that code for underwear?
my underpants and a t-shirt, yeah.
You know, one thing I started doing this show because I could meet interesting people and share stories. And I mean, I didn't know you until what, an hour ago.
Yeah.
Now I know you. Thanks again for coming out.
Dude, thanks for coming.
I love this place.
Right.
I'm gonna get a one to go. You think they'll let me take it on the plane?